to work in Commander, and that's okay. Just like every card should not be designed for our format, sending that out to the universe. Not everything needs to be for Commander. That's fine. Not everything is for Standard. Not everything's for Modern. Not everything's for Draft. It's okay.
Yeah.
So we can just say, hey, companion format, you're not really compatible with our rules.
Part of the conversation...
We gave it a chance. We tried.
And you never know that things may change regarding companion.
That's my little hill I'll stand on right now. I don't understand. I respect that, we didn't want to ban a mechanic right out of the gate before we'd seen it, but then even WotC was like, it's too much. So I think we kind of paid the dues of giving it a fair shot, and we should just, my 2 cents is we should just exit. Let Lutri can be free, have an absolutely adorable and not super amazing dual caster mage clone be your commander. Godspeed.
Well, I mean,
everything will be fine.
One of the things you said there is not everything needs to be made for commander, but I think at the same time, and this came up in a conversation that I had with Mark Rosewater today. Well, I didn't have the conversation today. As you and I are recording this, he's released the podcast episode, the Drive to Work podcast that he interviewed me on. They have to be sensitive to the fact that every set is a commander set.
See, I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree with that. Because before the format existed, that wasn't a consideration, and then the format existed, and it was fine.
Fair. It's a fair point.
And just make good cards. Like I've said, listen, we're pretty smart little group of people, us commander players. We can figure out all sorts of dumb stuff that was never supposed to exist together. You'll see Mirage and Visions cards in with Pharaoh's Block. Those two things were not meant to coexist as Magic was designed. We do just fine. But good cards are good cards, and we'll make them work. I don't think they need to feel like there's this giant specter of commander over everything. Design good stuff. We'll make it work. We'll make it fit. If it's too busted, that's why we have this, non-WotC rules committee looking at stuff being like, hey, actually, this is a whole lot. But that hasn't happened in the past when the format wasn't really something that was being taken into consideration, and the format was fine.
That's a super good point.
I don't think that they need. I think that it's a. I don't know anything about game design, so here's my uneducated opinion. I don't think that it's smart to consider every single thing as a commander set. I really don't. I don't see how the other formats benefit from that. And I don't see how in the long term Commander does either, because then soon everything is just being designed for this format, and I don't think that should be the case.
So your advice to the Studio X people would be design good things, and there's an ejector seat for Commander if we need it.
Yeah.
That if something's just too busted, if something's World Fire, we can just get rid of it.
Right. We can handle that. The format can handle that part. But I feel like their focus should be on just designing good stuff. They have, formats that they're in charge of that need to be healthy, and they need to take that into consideration primarily. I realize that our popularity has probably made us a pretty big revenue source, and maybe that's kind of why, even though it's a little cynical.
Hey,
it is what it is. But I think that. I think that it's actually detrimental to just look at everything as a commander set and everything has to be designed with this format in mind. It's again, however many years of Magic weren't designed that way, and Commander was doing just great and got popular without that help, without that design frame, without that set of, that state of mind.
It got popular, but then it took a rocket ride into the top after the Commander product. It was, we turned the corner in about 2013.
And I'm not saying that that's not, to be taken into consideration either. But I think at the same time, it also took the work out of, well, how am I supposed to sit here and figure out what works out with what? I'm not saying that they should completely abscond from designing for Commander. I don't have any problem with them still making the Commander precons and everything. I just feel like the actual block sets, not everything needs to be Commander. Because if it was when those precons started coming out, again, the format was still pretty okay. Edgar Markov was a mistake. Eminence wasn't the super favorite of everybody, but it's a little busted. But I think that it was a pretty good balance. Like, we got a certain amount of new cards. There were some reprints in there too, but it was I think part of what made it explode was that someone could just go buy that deck and hang in a pod.
Right.
They didn't have to figure out, okay, well, if I have this one legendary, either proxy themselves out of their minds trying to figure out if something's going to work, or go dig and buy too many cards and realize things aren't working, be out of money, like not know how to deck build if this is the first time, their first foray into the format. Mm-hmm. So the precons make perfect sense for that. Of course it would explode after that. It became super accessible. But I think that was kind of, at least again, my opinion, I think that was the really good balance. Like, we had Commander Christmas, we got our certain influx of new decks, and those had a very specific limited amount of new cards that we could deal with and reintegrate, reassess all these things that we'd looked at in the past and see, like, oh, how can we fit this in now?
Right.
Instead of it being this glut of every single thing has to be good in this format period.